Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So recently there have been a lot of bombshell news coming up, and quite frankly, it has been very hard for me to keep up with all the news and changes that are coming out. It's been hard to make videos on time, but I would argue that the most impactful news that came out was the one where shippers are going to be held accountable for who they load. So let's go ahead and explore this because this is something that could definitely impact the industry faster than any rule or regulation. Ready? Let's go. So, what exactly is the news? Well, on Friday, October 31st, Sean Duffy was giving an interview or making an appearance where he was talking about all the different changes that are happening in the trucking industry and enforcement of the ELP requirement, of course, English language proficiency, as well as non domiciled CDLs. And at first, he was talking about it from the standpoint of we have to hold the carriers accountable for who they hire. If a carrier is hiring someone who is not proficient in English, that is a problem. But then he made a statement that if it becomes reality, this could definitely impact how load transactions are done. What did he say? I also think we have to take a look at shippers, people who load up these rigs and send them across the country. There's a lot of interaction between the shipper and the trucker. If you can't speak English, those should be held to account. Say, listen, not going to put my load on that truck with the driver because they are breaking the law. Now, those of you who have been part of this channel for a while probably already know that I have pretty strong opinions about how rules and regulations are enforced in the trucking industry, because what I have been seeing time and time again is that carriers and drivers are the ones who always get the blame, while brokers and shippers seem to get a free pass. So I would be lying if I said that the idea of shippers being held accountable doesn't put a smile on my face. It absolutely does. This is a scenario you probably are familiar with where you get overloaded by the shipper, you go to the scale, you realize that you're overloaded either on an axle or in general, come back to the shipper and the shipper tells you, no, I'm not cutting the weight, and an out of service order is a you problem, not a me problem. When those kinds of things happen, yeah, you really want a situation where the shipper now is held to account and feels the same heat that drivers and carriers do. But today, of course, we're not talking about weight, we're talking about the English language proficiency requirement. So, how is this going to affect the trucking industry? Well, currently we have a lot of articles, again, those bombshell articles coming out about how the non-domiciled CDL rule paired with the English language proficiency enforcement, which by the way sidelined something like 7,000 drivers, is going to lead to a capacity crunch. Just recently, FreightWaves even released an article where they estimate that some 600,000 drivers are going to be sidelined over the next couple of years if we put all of the different things together. By the way, we're going to be talking in another video about the 600,000 drivers being sidelined because FreightWaves is actually not the only one who said it. But regardless, this claim of a capacity crunch, it all stems from one thing: rules and regulations being actually enforced. But what happens if shippers are now held accountable for loading trucks where a driver does not speak English proficiently? Just to give you an idea, this is something that is often seen at shipping facilities, and if we take this away and now shippers are required to load trucks where the driver is proficient in the English language, we are going to see a chain reaction, because in any business, everyone is just trying to cover their behind. The first thing that shippers are going to do, those that work with brokers, is reach out to those brokers and tell them, hey, during your vetting process, one of the things you have to vet for is for English language proficiency. You have to send us drivers who are proficient in English. And in turn, the broker will have to conform to that requirement or risk losing the customer. Now, there was talk that I remember, I don't remember where I read it, but when the ELP requirements started getting enforced again, there was a lot of talk about how dispatchers who were booking loads, they would say to brokers that yes, the driver speaks English, then give a different phone number for the broker to call, and that phone number belonged to someone who did speak English, but another driver would show up. Now, this is not going to be the case. I don't know how that would happen, to be honest, because Brokers, they also send the tracking link to the same phone number that they call, but I guess it does happen in certain situations. This is not going to be possible anymore because if shippers are the ones who are saying we are only going to load those who are proficient in English, no matter who shows up, the first thing the shipper is going to check is, hey, are you proficient in English, or am I at the risk right now of loading someone who might not pass the ELP assessment if inspected. Now, FreightWave said that this move would, and I'm going to quote this move would create havoc for carrier sales representative teams at freight brokerages, as they will be held accountable by their shipper customers for booking loads with unqualified drivers. Furthermore, and this is a very interesting find, I never thought about it this way, it will also make it more difficult for freight brokerages to distance themselves from verifying truck drivers' qualifications when arranging freight pickups. Currently, brokerages focus their compliance efforts on motor carriers, treating truck drivers as interchangeable. If new regulations impacting shippers are implemented, this will no longer be the case. So while yes, there are a lot of changes happening in the trucking industry, a lot of enforcement changes surrounding non-domiciled CDLs, English language proficiency requirements, and all of this could, of course, affect capacity in a big way. But I would argue that if the FMCSA really starts holding shippers accountable, this in and of itself would have an effect on capacity much faster than any rule or regulation out there. What do you guys think? Do you think, first of all, do you think the FMCSA is actually going to enforce this with shippers? And number two, do you agree that this could have a quicker effect on capacity? Anyway, wishing you all a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.